Good morning and welcome into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier on Tide 100.9 and 12:30 a.m. WTBC. Normally, it is the Iron Bowl edition of the show. We are broadcasting only on the live stream today. So hopefully, if you're used to tuning in on the radio dial, you've gotten up and at it with us this morning to be a part of the program on our live stream. It's the Martin Houston Show powered by MaX Sports, November 12, 24, 23. The Sound of Bama Sports, your show, your team. The playbook for today has our score prediction contest with Jalen Milroe passing yards as the tiebreaker. We'll talk about the players of the game. We'll talk about keys to victory. We'll go around the SEC and around the nation with a couple of key games later on in the program. I want to encourage you to join, share, and like the live stream at the Martin Houston 35, at Martin Houston 35 fan page, X's and O's Sports, MaX Sports, Tide 100.9, all of those. And then on YouTube and Twitter or the X is Martin Houston 35. All of those will get you in the conversation. So we're glad to be able to bring this to you today. We know that some of you may be listening back in playback. So if you did not get up and at them with us at 6 o'clock and we start asking for the score prediction contest, remember this is pre-recorded if you are listening after 7 o'clock today. But we are up and at 'em. Hopefully all of you had a awesome Thanksgiving Day on yesterday, and that you and your family are blessed and thankful during this holiday season as we roll into the rest of the Christmas season from here. It's a Black Friday X, and people are out and they standing in line and all of those things. But uh, hopefully you and I can deliver on what we need to deliver in terms of this football game. It's an exciting time for Alabama. Will the Alabama Crimson Tide be able to take care of their business on tomorrow? Well, we'll give you our thoughts and our opinions as we move forward. We want to remind you that this is a day that the Lord has made, so let's rejoice and be glad in it. Take some time today to notice someone, love someone, serve someone, be the difference you want to see in the world today. You can probably tell that I'm in a little different location today. Excited to have celebrated 34 years of marriage to my lovely wife on yesterday. So we got away for a few minutes and a few moments to celebrate that. And X, well, we still do our business when it comes to the Martin Houston Show, powered by MaX Sports. Everybody else took off, but we're here. So how you doing, sir? We're doing awesome. We're doing great. It's been a good time. We'll spend a little time reconnecting and staying in love for 34 more, getting ready for the second run. Um, of course, next year will be 35. The 35 has that significance for us. So looking forward to that. I don't know. I'm sure I'll do something special during that year. But anyway, glad to all of you to go ahead, guys, and gals, if you're out there listening, go ahead and get your score in to the show, to the program this morning. You can post those thoughts. There's no calling, no calling, but you can definitely post your thoughts and comments in chat. Well, X, it's been an interesting year. It's hard to believe the season's about over, and it's definitely been the tale of two seasons because early on in the year we were very down on this team, and rightfully so. Even though they had their Lank shirts going and all of that, I was part of the Lank crew, not necessarily because of the players, but because of the coaching. I don't feel like this coaching staff did a good job early on in the year. Um, But I now feel like this coaching staff is nailing it. So I want to recognize that as a whole. So, what's your thoughts in terms of just the tale of two seasons as we get ready to wrap up the regular season on tomorrow against the Auburn Tigers?
Man, it's crazy how fast this football season feels like it is gone by. But yeah, I mean, it really has been a tale of two seasons. You look at how the season started, the doubt, the concern, the mystery, and some of it, what the lion's share I would put on the coaches because of the decisions they made. But we were also just had questions about this team. How are we going to replace Bryce Young? How are we going to replace Will Anderson? Other key players that are now making a name for themselves in the NFL. And it was off to a shaky start. Even, the loss to Texas, the ugly performance against South Florida in the win, and then you turn around and you look and where we sit today, even though Alabama is on the outside looking in, a lot of people would have never thought we'd be in this position to begin with.
Yeah, it's definitely been a huge, huge turnaround for this team. And as you look at what's happening as Alabama sits where they sit, the question you have to ask yourself is: Did they hurt themselves too much early on with the way they performed, and will they be able to overcome that performance early in the year? And I don't know the answer to that yet. I keep saying if they win out, they will get there, but I think they have to win out in major, major fashion. Um, it's interesting. Out before we get to some additional conversation. MHS 0407 says if Bama had lost to Texas A&M rather than Texas, Bama would be ranked higher, possibly fifth or sixth. That's an interesting insight. Don't necessarily disagree with that. What are your thoughts?
I definitely can see it happening. I mean, because we would have the quote unquote head to head win over Texas. How are you going to put Texas behind Alabama when they beat them straight up? I mean, Texas lost to a worse team than Alabama, but they got the head to head.
Yeah,
I still
but
don't know the whole Oregon deal. The only team they played that they won in the top 25, they lost to. Everybody else is outside. I mean, when you have to start saying your best two wins are Utah and Colorado, how are you sitting at number 5 in the country?
yeah, and I think some of that actually,
number 6.
yeah, I think some of that when you look at what's happening with them, uh, it has to do with this team. I mean, not this team. This committee. I can't remember if it was Philip or Joey, one of them, that said, "I think this has to do with them getting their Rose Bowl matchup." You understand? We talk about this is the last time that the SEC. I mean, they're going to have the college football playoff. And they can lead the SEC out finally. The bigger thing is this is the last time you could have a traditional. You're talking about a tradition dying that's already been on its last leg. The Rose Bowl matchup between Pac-12 and Big 12, a Big 10. This is it. This is it. I mean, and so those traditional powerhouses from conferences are now conference foes, and those games are going to be matched up during the year. So the Rose Bowl doesn't have that glory. How big a deal? Because what they've pretty much done, barring Oregon State being the fly in the ointment, and come on, be that ointment. I mean, that fly today. I mean, Saturday, Oregon State. Barring that, I mean, tonight. See, I'm still kind of on a different different level. But get my days mixed up. But with that being said, X, it's they have almost assured themselves Big 10, Big 12 matchup. In some capacity, Don't be surprised if they don't make the rankings 2 and 3 to make it happen, right? In other words, Ohio State ends up at 2. They're thinking Georgia 1, Ohio State 2, Washington 3. Or Oregon jumps to 3 and Florida State wins, they're 4. That's what they're trying to set up. Just FYI. And there'll be Texas. There'll be Texas. Go ahead.
No, I agree that it has no doubt in my mind what they're trying to do at this point.
Yeah. And you have to look at it and go, I asked this question the other day, X, and I want you to think, which fan base is going to be the most disappointed if they all end up with one loss? Georgia, Michigan, Washington, Oregon, Texas, and Alabama. Which one of those ends up with fan bases end up, with the worst taste in their mouth from a loss? Because it's possible that's the crew that could end up. That's the list of teams that could easily end up on the outside looking in. X, um, and how do you handle that? So, but coming back on the other side, we're going to continue the conversation right here on the Martin Houston Show. We'll run a few highlights of Alabama's practice from the other day. We'll get that during the break, and then we'll come back and we'll keep the conversation going right here on the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier.
Let's go. That's it right there. Go, roll over. Go, roll over. Go. Go. Good, that's it. Slow. Bang. Go. 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 Roll over. Go. Even out, Tony. Good, that's it. That's it. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Slow. Bang. Go. Go. Roll over. Go. Roll over. Go. Go. That's it. That's it. Good. Good. There we go. Good. Come on, bro. Come on. Come on. Good out. There we go. Good. Next up. Next up. Let's go. Back. Back. Strap. Go. Feet. Feet. Tight turn. Good. Good. Inside that corner. Second. Stick. Stick. Tight. Oh, that's it. Second. Feet. Stick. Get up. That's it. Hey, Jordan, don't get. Come on, yeah.
Let's get things rolling once again. X, that was just a few highlights from the Alabama practice, Iron Bowl practice on Tuesday. Guys getting ready to break things down against the Auburn Tigers. We got a few comments coming in, so let's go ahead and work them into the conversation. First of all, MHS 0407 had the following. He said, last year, Bama was number 7 at this exact time. Prior to the Iron Bowl in the college football playoff, 2 teams ahead of us lost, LSU and TCU, and Bama still didn't get in. We need help and chaos in the next 2 weeks. Didn't think about that. But this, I think, is a stronger argument than last year. X, what are your thoughts?
I definitely think it's a stronger argument. The fact that Alabama only has 1 loss versus the 2 losses that they had last year. Then you kind of look at the teams in front of us, and you go, most scenarios. So that is what it is.
Except for, hold on, X. You know that's what they did the very first college football playoff.
That is true.
You know they took Ohio State, and was it Baylor and TCU were in front of them. I think they were number 6, and one lost and one won, and was a conference champ, and they jumped them. So there is precedent for it. Go ahead. But there wasn't this hate for Ohio State. There was love for Ohio State.
True. But when you look at the Oregon and Texas, outside of the head-to-head, which they are fickle on that about when they want to imply that and when they don't want to imply it. But Oregon, there's no reason Oregon should be number 5. There's absolutely zero reason why Oregon should be number 5. Yes, their one loss is to number 6. Their one loss is to the number 4 team in the country now, but they don't have another good win on their record. They don't have a good win. They play some of the worst teams, worst defenses in the country, and somehow that qualifies them to be the 5th best team.
Well, this is what I heard them say the other night. They said, "Well, they've taken care of their business. They've annihilated the teams on their roster." Yeah, like we did Chattanooga, like we did Kentucky, like we did Kentucky. If you look at it, name one of the teams that's in the top 8, 9, or 10. You could go all the way down to Louisville. And I think all of the teams would annihilate the competition that Oregon has annihilated. I mean, USC had lost, 4 or 5 games, but they've done the same thing offensively. They just don't have a defense. The difference is Oregon has a SEC-based coach who understands the importance of defense, so it makes those scores even crazier. But every SEC school and Big Ten school would do the same thing with Oregon's schedule. The question is,
I think most Big 12 schools would.
Right, I didn't even mention them. So it's sad, but it is what it is. My biggest thing is the fact that and this is unfortunate that you have to be perfect in college football, big time college football to be in the playoffs. And the fact that they do not they refuse to go when the teams played, this was a better team. If this team played now, if these two teams played now, who would be favored? And that's what MHS 0407, he said the college football committee should factor in which 14 would be favored on a neutral site. I think Bama would be favored over Washington, Texas, Oregon, and Florida State. And Alabama would be favored over Michigan and Ohio State. I guarantee you they would. The only team that Alabama will not be favored over is Georgia. And in my opinion, no matter how many times you've seen them play and not play, etc., the only team that Alabama's not been favored against in 10 years is Georgia. So it's and that's the sad part is they say they're supposed to get the 4 best teams. 4 best teams doesn't mean 4 best records. In interesting X, they showed a little bit of that in the Missouri situation, but they won't do that in the top. You see what I'm saying? Like putting Missouri ahead of Louisville is saying what? What do you think that's communicating? Louisville is 10-1. and going to be playing for their championship. Missouri is 2 games out, and technically they're 2.5 games out, or because they would need Georgia to lose 3 times to get into the conference championship because of the head-to-head. But yet they're in front of Louisville, the second best team in the conference. So are they saying that the SEC is a better conference? If you'll take a 2-loss Missouri team and put them ahead of their second best team and they're and gonna be what's gonna be the semifinalists or runner up in that conference, if you do that with Missouri, why would you not do that with Alabama over Florida State? Uh, except for you're saying they're undefeated. Well, you're saying that losses aren't equal in the conference, right?
There's no congruency, there's no consistency in the way that they do the rankings. At this point, you can't tell me it's not them wanting to keep Alabama out potentially if something happens, or if Georgia wins, Alabama's out in the SEC championship game. But you can't tell me that if Alabama beats Georgia, they're not doing anything in their power to have those teams lined up in front of Alabama to potentially keep both out. But if craziness happens, to potentially keep both of them out. You can't tell me that's not what they're
Yeah,
doing.
and once again, we hadn't even talked about this as we get ready to take some conversation to the Iron Bowl. X, the craziness of the football schedule, strength of schedule, the MH0407 is pointing out. Bama was the number 3 team, number 3 schedule for a large chunk of the season, and then when we played Kentucky and dominated them, we dropped. Why is it that when we beat people, and so we hurt our own strength of schedule? But then when we win, it helps Texas's strength of schedule. So you see what I'm saying? Like it's crazy. And you know where we are now, X?
I saw the other day it was like 28.
We're third. We're somewhere. Some have 28, anywhere from 28 to 32. And you know what that is.
We can blame Auburn for that. So.
No, it still shouldn't drop that much. Oregon didn't get hurt when Utah fell out of the top 25. They Washington didn't get hurt by beating Oregon State, and neither did Oregon. You see what I'm saying? It's anyway. The craziness of this. Let's go ahead and start some conversation around the Iron Bowl. You mentioned Auburn hurting Alabama because of what they did against New Mexico State. With the impact of that particular game, X, what does Bama need to do to take care of business as far as that particular game impact on Alabama? Because New Mexico State beat Auburn. Alabama needs to do what on tomorrow?
They need to absolutely blow the doors off the barn. Yeah, they got to. I think they have to win this game by four, 5 scores. Just go out do what we've seen them do over the last month and a half of football.
Yeah, they need to definitely, without a doubt, take care of business like they haven't in a while, and we would need to see them absolutely annihilate the Auburn Tigers. Coming back on the other side, we'll circle back into some keys to victory, specific things. We'll talk about players of the game. We'll also circle around to some keys to what we want to see around the nation as we look into tonight. Whew, you got a big opportunity for some chaos to at least begin to happen with you got the opportunity for some chaos to happen with what's happening with Oregon and Oregon State. Now I was going to go ahead and get you to get a prediction, but I'm gonna let you hold on, hold on for just a second with that particular comment. We're gonna get to break here. As we go to break, go ahead and make sure you get your score prediction out there. Let me know what you're thinking in terms of the score prediction for the Alabama Auburn Tide. Remember, Jalen Milroe is his passing yards is the tiebreaker. So coming back on the other side, we'll keep the conversation going. Invite you to get in on it right here on your home for Alabama sports, Tide 100.9 and 12:30 a.m. But remember, this is an Iron Bowl edition special with just Martin and Xavier. During the break here, while we take a step away, we're going to play a few Auburn, Alabama highlights. Here we go.
Lost today, so Alabama has a possibility to move up to number 2 in the college football rankings. Hunter, got hit hard as he hit the 20-yard line and keeps on going. Got it out to the 25. That's where the Tigers will go to work. And nowhere to go for Bigsby against the Alabama defense. Finley's first throw, maybe. Nope. Will Anderson there, close to a safety. Another sack for number 31.
Wheel him inside, starts outside, and then comes right over the center. Auburn probably practiced it 50 times this week. It's a backdoor tight outside linebacker coming around.
His back foot just about on the back line. Slade Bolden's camping under it with a fair catch call and taken around the 48-yard line. So already Alabama's in a short field. Auburn is second in the SEC in tackles for loss. No gain on that one. 3rd down and long. Young's got to get rid of it. Threw it into some traffic. Incomplete, intended for Williams. So 3 and out, Alabama. Javarius Johnson waits on the other end for Auburn. Lets it go, and it's going to be down around the 2 by Jamison Williams. Get an opportunity to catch that pass because he was held. Well, he held onto that one inside the 2. 3rd down and 2. He'll get it again, and he's not going to get it. Swarmed under To'o Anderson and company, and Tim Smith in the middle. On 2nd and 5, it's Bigsby trying to get to the edge. Forget about it. Brian Branch drops him for a loss.
A lot, and he's getting there in the bounce out. That's what this defense does. When they're playing well, they bounce it out to those safeties.
Javarius Johnson was the motion man. He sets up on the right. Finley goes that way and got it to him. Good for a 1st down.
All right. Welcome back
That's
in.
not as deep as it normally is.
Things rolling.
Year in and year out.
You seeing those highlights.
The throw. Wow, I don't know how he tucked it between those 2 guys, but he got it.
Last year, it was a crazy, crazy game. We were not expecting the dog fight, cat fight, whatever, tiger fight you want to call it last year as Alabama took on the Auburn Tigers. If you're just now joining the program, want to encourage you to check out Alabama One. Alabama1.org is where you can find them online. Great things happening at Alabama One. Just had our big Black Wednesday sale. Thank all of you who supported our promotion, 6 for 6 CD. But you may be thinking, man, I missed out. Well, Alabama One has a great CD rate, 12-month CD rate, starting at 5.3 for the 12-month. You can get that, or if based on how much money you have, we have a jumbo rate that gets up to 5.51. And if you're a business, you can get a CD for 5.72, 12 months. So not a long commitment, but big time earnings at Alabama One. Go to alabama1.org and you can find out all the details. Alabama One, one together. What's your one? All right, X. You saw those highlights there. Crazy game last year. Crazy game last year. Alabama going into that day had got some good news. There'd been some losses and different things happening. And Bama just barely took care of business and different things. So it's always spooky. I said last year before when we were down there. It's always crazy to think about what happens when you go down to Auburn. I mean, you just you usually can throw out the record. Do you feel like this is a throw out the records type of game, or will this team be different?
Yes and no. When you look at it, if this game was anywhere else, I'd be Alabama rolls easily. But it's in Jordan Hare. Looking back at it, Bama's 2-3 in their last 5 trips down there, and it's going to be a dogfight. That's the way it is in that building, and Alabama can definitely take care of business. I mean, I feel a repeat of 2011 Alabama Auburn, where I think it was like 42-17, something along those lines. Can't remember off the top of my head. Just because I don't know if they're going to come in too emotional after the loss last week. And sometimes when you're too emotional, it's a negative. And Bama knows what they have on the line, and we've seen them this entire year since that Texas game go. It doesn't matter what we got to do; we're going to be done it. So I think that's what's going to give Bama the edge in previous years.
Yeah, like you say, typically you can throw it out the window, but I think part of this X, you have to look at this game from the standpoint of this particular team. Why would this be different? I think that length, mindset, mantra, whatever you want to call it, let a naysayer know. It, maybe why this team goes into Jordan Hare and absolutely annihilate this team. And speaking of that, if you hadn't got your score in, the Alabama versus Auburn score prediction contest tiebreaker, Jalen Milroe's passing yards. I need to make sure I put that, not his total yards. That would have been fun if I put total yards. We might have to do that next week against Georgia. Jalen Milroe's passing yards is the key there. And so let me know your scores and whether you think this Alabama Crimson Tide team is going to be able to dominate against the Auburn Tigers. Speaking of that, X, when you look at the keys to victory for this particular game, see what we got some callers talking, chatters, I should say, talking over here. MH0407 says, Bama needs to get out to a fast start to take the crowd out of the game. Auburn plays based on their crowd at home. Oh man, cannot disagree with that particular statement, X. And I think that's not only the key to this game. I think that's key to the committee It gives the committee another talking point because that's what they say about Oregon every week. Oregon control their opponent from the beginning of the game to the end of the game. Now they give Oregon credit for that, but they don't ding Texas and Washington for not controlling the game and being in a struggle battle for the entirety of the game or down the stretch of a game. Both of these teams could have lost at any point in the last few weeks. So, what's your thoughts in terms of your first key to victory?
First key to victory is the offensive line, defensive line for both teams. Alabama's offensive line has played really good, since the LSU game. I think they only gave up 1 sack against LSU. I don't think they gave up any against Kentucky. And then when you look at the Chattanooga game, the only reason I believe that there were sacks because Jalen was like, I'm not going to run. I'm going to try to just throw the ball. I really think he was doing everything he could not to run. Maybe that's because he's still a little banged up from the hit he took against Kentucky. But I think 3 sacks in the last 3 weeks is what Alabama's offensive line has given up after having a stretch where they were giving up 4 a game. You see how they've improved. We talk about Jalen Roberts and what he's meant to this offensive line since being inserted in the starting lineup. You look at how Caden Proctor has finally started to come along through the course of the season. If Alabama controls this defensive line for Auburn, it could be a long day. They're not that great in the back end. We'll be able to run the ball with ease. And then defensively, these guys just have to keep playing the way they've been playing. Keep dominating up front. The 2 highest rushers for the season outside of the guy that had, and he still didn't pass him, but outside of the Kentucky player that had the 70-something yard run at the end of the game, Alabama hasn't given up, I think, more than 60-something yards to a starting running back all year long, or to a running back period all year long. Jaden Daniels and Barry Brown, the quarterback for South Florida, are the 2 leading rushers against Alabama on the season. Peyton Thorne is somewhat of a threat running the ball. We know they have Robbie Ashford, but if we're able to slow down Jarquez, Hunter, and Crew, Alabama dominates this game.
Absolutely agree with that sentiment that this team, to me, I will go back to MHS 0407, and we got to get off to a fast start for several reasons. One of the reasons we need to get off to a fast start is simply to shut up the crowd. Just get them out of the game and take them out of the game. Don't give them any hope. Put your foot on their throat from the beginning. I'm talking about choke them out immediately. Don't let them think there's any hope of them playing with us. If we don't do that, it'll be a dogfight, and it will hurt Alabama in the long run. Even though it's Iron Bowl, and in typical years, they would say it's the Iron Bowl. You can throw out the records. This committee would say Alabama struggled with a poor Auburn team, and that'll be the conversation. So Alabama needs to annihilate their in-state rival. The greatest rivalry in college football is not anywhere else except for the Deep South. I don't even understand how people try to make it anything else other than that. That's number one. Number two is that I think we need to show explosive plays offensively. I think the wide receivers, Jalen Milroe needs to have another one of those 2 for 2, 3 for 2, 4 for 1 type of games. He needs to get in that 4 to 5, 6 touchdown range X, because I think that shows the dominance of Alabama. Even though what we had last year, 8 different people scored touchdowns last week against Chattanooga. I think it was 8 or 9, some crazy. I think at one point we had 8 touchdowns by 8 different people, and that's good, but it doesn't give the same feel as him being unstoppable. In other words, when you played against Auburn got the go ahead because they had a player you couldn't stop. And Jalen Milroe against Auburn having a 2 for 2, 4 for 2, 4 for 1 type of game. Either way, it doesn't matter which way it is. I think it makes him a scary proposition for the opponents to think about and reconcile. So that would be number 2. And number 3 is defense. Let's stymie this offense. They got 10 points against New Mexico State. We can't let them get any more than that. We need to shut them. Woo! What if we shut them out? But defense needs to dominate, in my opinion. So, X, if complete this statement in terms of college football playoffs, if Alabama shuts Auburn out, the committee will be forced to say what or do what?
I wish it would be as simple. Oh, Alabama's going to move up, but I don't know what they're going to do, man. It's so crazy. I think it depends on what happens between tonight and tomorrow with the other teams. I can't say this is what's going to happen if Alabama wins. I'll say if Alabama's in the dogfight, we're stuck. If Alabama dominates, depending on what happens, we can move up quickly. It just depends. If we're dogfight, close game, we don't move anywhere. Blowout, we can move up. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, if Alabama takes care of their business, this committee will be forced to once again wobble on their criteria. I think that they should have to lay out clearly what their is for the year, what the criteria they're going to actually use for the year, and not be able to one week say this and the next week say that, because that's what they do. I mean, they just have conversations based on what they want to say and or do in terms of this game. Hey, as we're getting ready to go to break here, I want to remind you, go ahead and get your thoughts and comments in as far as the score prediction contest. Come back on the other side. I'm going to let X share his favorite moment. We'll also get our players of the game. We'll look at a couple other key matchups around the country, and then we'll give you our score prediction contest, and we'll work in a few comments from what's happening around the league and the thought processes from our chat listeners, viewers. And as we go to break here, here's just Coach Saban talking a little bit, his opening comments from a press conference earlier this week. We'll be back in just a moment, so stay tuned for more of the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier. This Iron Bowl edition, special Iron Bowl edition, and it's a live stream only. Thank all of you who got up and Adam post Happy Thanksgiving to talk Iron Bowl with us.
How we doing, guys? So first off, let me just take a second to wish everybody happy Thanksgiving. I know this is a great time of the year to have gratitude and give thanks for all the things that we have. I know we all spend a lot of time thinking about the things that we want and maybe not appreciating the things that we have, relationships and all the other things in the world that we worked hard to try to accomplish. So hopefully everybody has an opportunity to do that and has a very enjoyable and happy Thanksgiving. So this is a very special competitive situation. The Iron Bowl Auburn's got a very good team. And I know in rivalry games, things are always going to be very, very competitive, and I don't think records or any of that stuff really matters when it comes to what happens in, this game. So I think for our players, it's what do you choose to pay attention to? There's out there that, in rivalry games can get your attention, but we have a plan, and everybody's got to know the plan, whether it's offense, defense, special teams, or whatever. I have a process that we've been working on how to execute that plan for a long time, all season long. All right, so hopefully we want to focus on the process of what we got to do to execute it. And then we got to have a sense of purpose for why is it important, to be able to have an opportunity to be successful in that game so that, we can stay focused on the right stuff. So that's kind of my message to the guys, and that's what I'd like for them to stay focused on. And because at the end of the day, it's going to be, kind of what happens on the field. And I think it's always been in this game, people talk about all the things that have happened, but basically in my experience, the team that plays the best is the team that has the best chance to be successful, and that's the way it's always worked out in the past.
Starting with Charlie.
Yeah, hey, Coach, just quickly.
Hey, that's Coach Nick Saban talking about giving his opening statements regarding this game, saying the team that has played the best has always been able to win out, and not necessarily the best team, but the team that has played the best. So we'll see if they're able to keep that rolling. Let's hope that the Tide plays the best as we move into the final moments of today's show. Want to invite you, if you haven't got your score in, to go ahead and get your score in this morning. We also want to take a little jaunt around the country X and talk a little bit about some of the big games coming up. It's possible that Alabama could get the good news they need before they even take the field tomorrow, which would work out great if the football gods would just smile on us in this way. We'll see if they do that. But before we do that, what's your favorite Iron Bowl moment before we jaunt around the SEC in the country?
For me, I guess it could be the 2008 Iron Bowl. That moment, unless something crazy happens, Braden plays in the game, Deuce plays in the game, that'll probably be my forever favorite moment. Of course, they better be playing for the Crimson Tide for them to overtake this one. But no, 2008, my senior year in high school, me and you went to the game. It was the day after my last high school game, actually. And Alabama hadn't beaten Auburn since I was in 5th grade. And so I'd gone all the way through middle school, all the way to senior year of high school, say the second year. And it was an absolute dog walk, 36-0. But the moment for me is where we're seated in the end zone, and Glenn Coffey breaks that run down the sideline for the touchdown. And you just when that happened, you knew it was going to be different. You knew things were changing. And that will forever be, unless once again, nephew, son playing the game, my favorite Iron Bowl moment that I was there.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome memory and moment there. I got to share that with you, so that's pretty cool. Couple quick thoughts before we jaunt around the nation. MHO 407 saying Bama wins 38-17. Miro goes for 271. Buying Squirrel Sport saying Bama's cheerleaders are tougher than the barn this season. Tied 52. Auburn 13. So Miro for 205 passing yards. Bama starters will get so much rest they might be a little rusty a week from Saturday. So Bama should control Auburn's run game. Bama doesn't have Henry To'oTo'o at middle linebacker this year. Ooh, shot fired across the bow there. as long as Alabama doesn't fumble snaps or turn the ball over, it's going to be a rough day for the barn. I would like to ask the officials to throw some laundry on the field because the Barnes O-line is going to hold Bama players all day long. They usually get away with it, though, down there. So we'll see if that happens. Now let's take a jaunt around the SEC, around the country, X, and the one of the first ones up. Curtis Moore. The second says Civil War, Oregon versus Oregon State. I'm definitely an Oregon State fan tonight. Go Bees! Laugh out loud. So first up, Oregon versus Oregon State. Who we want to win. Who do you see winning?
Is it at Oregon or is it at Oregon State?
I hadn't even paid that any attention. Let me see. I can tell you real quick. Let me see. That's tonight. Looks like it's at Oregon.
I want to see magic happen. I want to see something crazy happen, but it's going to be hard to beat Oregon in Austin Stadium. So I don't know. I'll pull for the upset.
Yeah. Hey, listen. Oregon State should have beat Washington. I think the rain hurt Oregon State last week against Washington. They got close, lost 22-20, but had a chance and just did some things strangely down the stretch that, to me, cost them the game. I'm like you. I want to see the upset. I just want it to. This will be once again. They've played one ranked team so far and lost. And if they're in a dogfight and end up barely winning or losing, then that makes the statement that this team is not as dominant as they've looked. If they blow out Oregon State, it just bolsters the committee's thought process. So, especially coming off of a tight game against Washington. Okay, so we need Oregon State to make it a close game and or win. My heart says Oregon State. If I was a betting man, I would put my money on Oregon. Next up tonight. Now think about this. It's possible that the two teams in front of us at 6 and 7 X could lose tonight. Is there any chance that Texas Tech upsets Texas?
There's always a chance. I think they can. I mean, you look at how Texas has been playing over the last month and a half, and it's like they were on that really high after they beat Alabama, and that loss to Oklahoma. Even though they've still been winning, it's been ugly, it's been close, it's been not what you would want. I definitely see Texas Tech being able to beat them. Will they? Of course not. As you said, betting man, I'm taking Texas. My heart says Texas Tech.
Yep. I'm gonna go for that's gonna be one of the upsets. Texas Tech figures out how to beat Texas because they can't handle the pressure. Pressure burst pipes. Texas burst tonight. So, but the interesting thing, Texas hasn't even secured their own conference championship yet. Everybody assumes that they're going to be in the conference championship game. They have to win tonight to secure that. So, be interesting to see what happens there. And if they lose it and everybody else wins, it'll be I think a 4-way tie, and they have some weird, strange tiebreakers going on. Next big game, you got Ohio State and Michigan. I think they said that Ohio State under Ryan Day is 40-0 against the Big Ten, and 1-2 against Michigan. After having dominated Will Michigan make it 3 in a row? It's at Michigan, no Jim Harbaugh. Does Michigan find a way to make it 3 in a row, or does Ohio State hold on to that number 2 spot?
Where's this game at again?
It's in Michigan.
Man, this is a game of really good defenses. I don't know if Michigan is still up under it. I think they should be, but there's only been one team in the last, I think, 15 years holding opposing teams to up under 10 points a game throughout the course of the season, and that was 2011 Alabama. Michigan and Ohio State heading into this game are both in position to do that.
Which means that which means neither one of them has played any offensive teams.
Yes. But, no Jim Harbaugh, but it's at Michigan. Ryan Day has lost the last 2. Is that mentally too much? Can Kyle McCord to get the ball into Marvin Harrison Jr.'s hand against a really, really good secondary? You're talking about at least 2 or 3 guys that will be playing in the NFL in a year or 2 in that secondary. I've seen Michigan absolutely just go within and run the ball, and there's nothing you can do. I'm taking Michigan at home. Just because it's at home, don't know how against this caliber of a team.
Yeah, interesting. I I think you broke it down pretty good, so I won't go into a lot of detail there. Real quick, and hey guys, if you're out there listening, we'll extend the show just a little bit because we don't have anybody else coming up after us, so we can go a little bit longer. And we'll do that to make sure we get in the Alabama score prediction, our scores, and our players of the game as we kind of go around the nation. You can stay on for just a little bit longer. Ohio State at Michigan. I think that Ohio State may be the better team. They're more battle tested. And I also think an Ohio State win drops Michigan further than a Michigan win drops Ohio State. My concern with Michigan winning is if they beat Ohio State, they will put Ohio State in front of Alabama and Texas and Oregon. I really do think that all of a sudden you see Oregon stay at 6, 7, and 8 with Ohio State at 5, and Florida State bumping up to number 4. That's my thoughts. So because of that, I'm going with the Buckeyes to go ahead and win out X. We need Louisville to be riding on a high, but that means pulling against an SEC school real quick. Just yay or nay. You think Kentucky upsets Louisville, or Louisville goes into that game against Florida State with a 10-1 record, 11-1 record? I think Louisville takes care of Brom, and I think Brom parlays that into a win next week over the Florida State Seminoles. So we'll keep our eyes on that, pulling for Louisville there. Washington State and Washington, a game that no one's really talked about a lot, because Washington State, has been counted down this year. But it's a rivalry game. Will they upset the apple cart and give Washington a loss? It's possible. It's possible. Think about all the scenarios. Oregon could lose, Washington could lose, and then those two teams annihilate each other next week. So we'll watch it and see. But does Washington State upset Washington, or that's a wash? And it's at all the games are at home, by the way. All the teams we want to lose are at home. Huh?
Are we the only one on the road outside of Ohio State?
Yep, I think so.
Washington can do it. Washington State can do it. They have the firepower to do it. defense get enough stops? We've seen Washington get enough stops. That's the question. Once again, betting man, I'm taking Washington. My heart says Washington State. I think it's going to be a really good game.
Yep, I think Washington wins, but it'd be great if Washington State helped us out. Pulling for that, but not believing that. Another big game, Florida State and Florida. Florida State is on the road at Florida. Napier could save his job potentially with a big upset win over Florida State. Can the Gators get it done and help Alabama out by knocking Florida State off?
We all know Jordan Travis, horrific injury last week. He's out of this game there with their backup quarterback, Tate Rodemaker. When I saw that, as an Alabama fan, hey, this could help them at the end of the day. Hated for that young man. And I was going to say, without a doubt, I think Florida could do it. Then Graham Mertz breaks his collarbone about an hour later. And now they have their backup quarterback in the game. It's going to be – I think it's going to be ugly. I think it's going to be nasty. Florida has the advantage because they're at home. They're both with backup quarterbacks. You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and take Florida State because I believe we'll be able to beat them next week.
Yeah, I'm going to take Florida. I think Florida finds a way. Florida let Missouri get away last week. They had the game won, went to prevent defense on the last drive, and let them drive down the field and get into thick kicker's range easily, and he knocked it home. So I think the Gators find a way to rally, even though I think it'll be high emotions for Florida State. I think now that you have a week to prepare for the backup quarterbacks on both sides, I'm going to give Florida the edge at home. Here's the concern, X. The SEC plays Clemson, Georgia Tech, Louisville, and for us, they already made it bad. The SEC doesn't need to lose all of those games except for Georgia. That'll hurt the SEC and Florida State. So there's 3 matchups with the ACC this week. The SEC started the season off losing to out-of-conference foes. Will that hurt Bama if that were to happen?
Yes, I mean it would definitely hurt.
Go ahead.
I don't think it's going to factor too. Things just have to play out the right way. That's just what it is.
Yeah, and that's true. So if they take care of the business, Alabama still needs to win in dominating fashion. So let's talk about our players of the game, and then we'll get our score prediction. Who you got for players of the game?
It's so easy to say Milrose. So I'm gonna throw a little wrinkle. I think Roydale Williams has a big game. I think the physicality of this matchup, the physicality of this rivalry, I think he has a big game. We've seen him have big moments in some of these games the last few weeks, and I just think he gets it done this week.
All right. It's been a while since we had a wide receiver be player of the game. Is it possible that Burton does that against the Auburn Tigers? I think it is, but I just can't move away from Milroe. I think he has another one of those historic type of games. I think he becomes a I almost said a 100-300. You know what that is?
Yeah, you're going to say 100 passing, 300
rushing. No. I think he gets 300 yards passing and 100 yards rushing. I think he's going to be the player game offensively. Who you got defensively?
Defensively, I think it's going to be Jahad Campbell. I think just the way he's been playing, man, just lights out week in, week out. The bigger the moment, the bigger he plays.
What you got for Milroe touchdowns? Over under 4.
Ooh, over under 4. I'll take a watch. I think he gets 4.
All right, I'm going over. I'm all in on Milroe. All in on Milroe. You got Jahad Campbell. I think you're going to see this front line dominate X, and I think it's going to come down to a combination of the outside pass rushers. I think you're going to see tremendous push from the front, which is going to give DT 2.0 and Braswell a chance to and company to make some serious tackles. I think Auburn's going to be forced to pass the ball early, which is not where they want to be. So I'm going to give it to those guys, but I do think you'll see an interception by the linebacker core, and then this defensive backfield is going to be just lights out as a result of what happens in terms of that defensive front getting after it. Now, Blind Squirrel Sport points out a good point. If Miro doesn't get to my numbers X, it's because they take him out. I'm going. That's my caveat. All right. That's my caveat. So, all right. As we close out, X, what you got from a score prediction standpoint?
Man, you said we can't let them score as many as the Mexico State said.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going all in, man. I'm all in.
It's a rivalry game. It's going to be a little bit of a fight. I'm saying 41-13.
All right, 41-13. Now I have two different scores. One is, my first score was 48-3. Okay, with Miro having 305 passing yards. All right. My other score is 55-10. With Miro having everybody always thinks I'm crazy when I have these numbers, but I'm always close.
It always falls in between our scores.
Yeah. Which one should I go with? 48-3, 55-10. Either way, we're beating them by 45 points. I'm calling for 45. We're going to absolutely make them cry. And then they won't be running around here talking about, well, we had our La Monroe moment.
Go big or go home.
55-10. I don't want them to get 10 points, though. That's the problem. But they get them 10 late. They going to get the 10 late. We're going to go into the fourth quarter with a shutout. Barring any penalties, barring a long punt return or special team, this offense will not, bold prediction, will not drive and score unless they get the ball in our territory close to field goal range. As a matter of fact, unless we give the ball to them, they might not even cross the 50-yard line. I'm talking about LSU dominance like we did when it was 9-6, and they got lucky to win. And then in the repeat, they didn't even get across the 50-yard line. I don't think that type of that type of win. And we'll go back with the old Nick Saban. We want people to fear Alabama. And I believe for the first time in a long time, Nick Saban will allow his team to make a statement. The Georgia Bulldogs, Kirby's smart. Kirby has kept his guys in terms of style points, back-to-back games where he clearly had the game wrapped up in the third quarter, and he kept them in to run up the score and hold down the score. Alabama does similar X and takes care of business in this game.
Passing yards. I got Miro for 263.
263. And what was your score again?
41-13.
All right. And I had 305 and 315. The 48-3 was 305. The 55-10 was 315. Woo! It's
The extra 10 is that last touchdown.
huh?
The extra 10 is the last touchdown.
Who Auburn's or
No. For Miro, you said 305, 315, 340, 48.
oh yeah, them last 10 yards gonna be that extra touchdown that he gets late in the game. Not late in the game, but at some point in the game. So, oh my goodness, Alabama versus Auburn. It's Iron Bowl 2023 X. Closing thoughts.
Man, it's hard to believe that the regular season is wrapping up, and it's been a fun ride, man. It's been fun watching this team grow and change as the season has gone along, and I feel like we're going to put a pretty bow on it tomorrow.
Absolutely. It's been a lot of fun. Alabama versus Iron Bowl. Alabama versus Auburn in the Iron Bowl 2023. We got Bama winning. I have them winning big. I think bigger than anybody. Everybody else has Auburn getting 10 or more points. I have them 48-3 or 55-10. Hey, I'm the show host. I get to give two scores. But I'm leaning more toward the first one just because of the amount of playing time. If they keep starters in a little bit longer, I'm leaning toward the second one. So, because I think Ty's score on this team, I think he'll drive on this team. And I love the fact that when they brought him in, they let him play football last week. I think they'll do the same thing when he comes in this week. So they'll still run up the score. Miro with 100, 300. I don't know if that's ever been done in Alabama history. Miro makes history again. Hey, guys, for the Martin Houston Show, powered by MaX Sports, that's Xavier Houston. I'm Martin Houston. This has been a Iron Bowl live stream edition of the Iron Bowl Classic. We appreciate you all jumping in on with us this morning. If you enjoyed this, hey, make sure you come back and join us on next week as we'll have Kenneth Smith III joining the conversation and talk post Iron Bowl, what we think as Alabama prepares to take on the mighty Georgia Bulldogs. We'll have those conversations and more on Monday. Thank you so much for being a part of this show. And remember this, we love to invite you to come out to Harvest Church where we're loving God and loving people. Come on out and be a part of, part of service with us at 10 a.m. That's Harvest Church. Love God, love people. And then, of course, remember this, trust in the Lord always. Lean not your own understanding. All your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. Roll Tide out there, everybody.